Kirk Duckwell here with Mastermind the Market, your real estate stats update for the Twin Cities area. Well, did you see what happened in the last week? What am I referring to? Well, in last week's video, I talked about our market should kind of have a slowdown unless we see big changes in interest rates. And that we did. The last few days has been pretty chaotic in the bond market, and we've seen interest rates rise quite a bit. So let's dive into the data and take a look. All right, so looking back at interest rates, this is rates without points being, with points being paid. We had finished off last Thursday at a 5.23. Without points from our resident mortgage geek, I had mentioned a 5.37 for a 30-year mortgage rate. So since then, as I mentioned, the bond market has been kind of crazy. So we can see going back to the 9th here, things were kind of level, and then they just started to move up pretty drastically. So where does that put us today with mortgage rates? Well, we're now seeing rates that are around 6.125, and that's for the 30-year. Remember, last week in the video, it was 5.37, so 6.125 today. And the 7/1 ARM, which we talked about last week, has moved up as well. That's now at a 4.99. Now, I want to focus on that a little bit. For buyers who are really paying attention to payment, the 7/1 ARM or 10/1 ARM may be an option you want to discuss with your loan officer, depending on how long you're planning on being in the home, or if you think a refinance might be a good option in the future. So that can help keep that payment lower for 7 years to 10 years period of time, depending on which one you look at. But yeah, for those looking at a 30-year fixed, that is at 6.125. So this is going to play into where our market moves. So let's take a peek at just some of the most recent stats here from the Minneapolis Association. Now, none of this takes into account the recent rate movement because that data has not come out yet. So in next week's video, we'll see the impacts of where showing activity and stuff goes from there. But the most recent data we do have, new listings did jump up a bit from 1657 up to 1772. Pending sales dropped off from 1469 to 1077. That's kind of the aftermath of Memorial Weekend, so we would expect that to jump back up. This overall, though, is bringing inventory even higher, and it was at a 68.73 up to 69.68. So that's up over last year by 7.9%. This obviously is affecting that showings per listing by a lot. So let's take a peek at that. Was it a 5.37? Now down to a 4.56. Now, we didn't see numbers like that last year until August through October. So definitely the market pace is slower out there, even though the number of buyers is not that far off if we look at like total showing activity. But overall, the showings per listing average down 17%. Okay, moving along, the market meter, where are we at now? Again, this has not factored in the last couple of days because I ran this data on Monday, but we were at a 7.67, so I would expect that is even lower now and will continue to fall at a faster pace than maybe I talked about in last week's video because of this recent rate hike. So we might see, depending on where rates go for the remainder of the week, if they drop back down, we'll see the impacts of that come the next video. But yeah, 7.67. So where is that on our market meter? All right, so a 5 is like just the dead middle of the road balanced market. A 7 point, I think I said there, what was that again? 7.67 puts us right about here, which is a seller's market range. But so what does that mean? What is a seller's market versus the strong seller's market that we were in earlier this year? Well, this is going to equate, and how we look at this and analyze this is kind of percentage of list price received. So we can look at our scale going back here and see the movement, and this is week by week of what that does. Again, this is kind of the predictor of where the market will go. If we jump over to the percentage of list price received, we haven't seen that transition yet here. This is going to start dropping off because of, our market meter says it will. We knew that would be happening. It's just the data has not come out here yet. So when we're talking about seller's market, when was the last time we were in this range? Well, it was fall of last year. And so really that's where sellers are getting pretty close to 100% of their list price, plus or minus a little bit. So, last year, peak market, they were getting 104%. This year, peak market, 104. We, again, expect that to fall off. But going back to like 2019, the middle of the summer, seller's market, not strong seller's market like we've experienced the last 2 years, but seller's market 19, a little bit above in 18. That's more than normal. Standard seller's market getting pretty close to their listing price. And we can see, in the winter that tends to drop off, or we go back all the way to 2017 when the market wasn't as hot. You can see didn't quite make it to that 100%, getting close. So that's how we analyze what is the strong versus standard versus stable market, is looking at that percentage of list price received. Hopefully you found this information valuable. As always, click on that like button if you like these videos. If you want to geek out more, check out our Twin Cities Real Estate Show. That's on the CW23, Saturday mornings at 6:30, or on TwinCitiesRealEstateShow.com. One last thing I wanted to talk about, and one of the things that we are seeing, another predictor of where the market is we're seeing that cancellation rate in offers get higher and higher. Whereas it was as low as about 2 or 3% during the peak market, we're getting up there. We're seeing a cancellation rate closer to 8 or 9%, which is a lot more like normal. So as I was saying to a client earlier today, actually, is we're kind of going into a more normal market. Interest rates closer to normal. Rates typically are between 5 and 8% most of the time. We've seen rates higher than that. Obviously, we've seen rates lower than that. But we're going into a more normal market, a more stable market. Again, right now for sellers, it's still a seller's market. If you price correctly, you're going to get pretty close to that price. But you're not going to see that insane multiple offers that we did previously. And for buyers, you're seeing a lot more inventory, a lot less competition out there, more opportunity to negotiate. Take care, be safe, and have a great week.